filter in, but we could probably get started now that we're a couple of minutes past the hour. All right. Well, welcome everyone to BD by the Bay and our first virtual event. For those of you who are new to BD by the Bay, it started out as a kind of a social gathering back when we used to have social gatherings for those involved in the technology partnerships profession. And it was a great opportunity for us to get to know each other, exchange ideas. Since our business is all around partnerships and building technology partnerships, we always thought it was a good idea to get to know each other so we can, network and make it easier to reach out to each other. Since that starting, it has grown, and we have put on some live events. Again, when we could put on live events, but now we're in this world, we're moving to virtual events. And welcome to our very first virtual event, where we'll be talking about how technology partnerships can impact the sales channel. I'll let everyone introduce themselves, but to quickly introduce myself, my name is Ron Piavizan. I am a Senior Director of Technology Partnerships with Okta and one of the people helping to run BD by the Bay. And I'll turn it to some of my co-conspirators. Connie, why don't I turn it over to you to quickly introduce yourself? You're on mute.
All right, sorry about that. I've unmuted myself. Hey everybody, nice to see everyone here. My name is Connie Wu. I'm a Director of Business Development at DocuSign. I've been with the company for 6+ years and oversee some of their strategic partners and go-to-market. And I'm going to turn it over to Dom.
Hey everyone, I'm Dom Perry. Spent my entire career in corp dev and biz dev roles prior to being in venture. I'm with Vertex Ventures, early stage B2B enterprise investors based in Palo Alto. We do seed and Series A and have been around for 6 years. Portfolio companies include LaunchDarkly, Perimeter X, Very Good Security, and Desktop Metal. Todd?
Awesome. Like Dom, I also joined the dark side from Corp Dev BD, and I'm now at Venrock, where we focus on, shockingly enough, seed and early stage. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Wanted to make a couple quick notes on your Zoom in the event. This is the first webinar you've ever done, which if that is the case, let me know because I've got some follow-on questions. But one, we encourage you to ask questions with the QA button, which is located below the bottom bar. Feel free to chat with the panelists, the attendees, by clicking on the chat button. Just make sure that you remember to chat with either all panelists or all panelists and attendees. There's 2 different settings there. And last but not least, when you've got a question during the QA, please use the raise the hand button in the middle. And with that, I will toss it over to Maureen. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And we're really excited to have you all here. This is the fun stuff, right? So many of us live in these wonderful roles of business development, and we're trying to explore and hit the hard truth about what is our specific role, what do we want to accomplish, how do we work with our channel and field direct. And with me today, we have Alan Chabra, who's Senior Vice President, Worldwide Partners. And he also has a unique role because he also runs sales for all of APAC. Before that, he ran worldwide automation sales at BMC Software. So thank you for being here, Alan. We're going to ask you a million questions.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We also have Zach Kilpatrick, my friend, my partner in crime here at Okta. Zach is Vice President, Regional Alliances at Okta, and he has been in the alliances space. I don't want to age you, but it's been a while, and he's had big success at both Juniper and Checkpoint Software as well. So Zach is here. And finally, we have Matt Smith. I love it that we're like rolling the cameras on as if we're like in it. And Matt built and led the global partner organization and business development at Duo Security. Massive growth from like 30 million to 300 million. And I'm sure you have some stories, maybe some scars to show it. And also spent 8 years at Symantec. So you guys, this is a phenomenal set of people to talk to. And you guys, all of you people sitting there, hopefully you join these webinars to learn something, right? Well, I'm going to challenge you. If you want, I would jump into that Q&A early. pick something that you just feel like you really can't ask a colleague. You should know this by now in your job. Maybe you're at a smaller company. You're trying to figure out that balance of business development versus sales and direct revenue. That's a hard thing. What's unique about this panel here is all of us have done startups all the way to big publicly traded companies. Some of us have gone through acquisitions. Some of us have gone through IPOs. So it's like, we're all friends here. This is a safe space. So jump in there, ask a question, and put something that is a big problem that you're having a hard time solving, and maybe someone here can help you. What would it be like if you got some value back from an awesome webinar here? And again, I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to be the panelist, but this is really for you guys listening in to learn. Okay, so to start, let's give some context to everybody. If each of you, and I'll call your names just to make it easier, can you start by helping us understand at a super high level, like 30 seconds, what is the sales and revenue structure of your organization, right? Are you SaaS-based? Is there a high percentage of channel versus direct? And then also where you sit, where your function sits within the org. Alan, can you kick us off?
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. Thanks, everybody, for attending. It's very exciting. MongoDB is a data company, and we have a database offering, and partners are a key component of how we grow. They're the X factor. Without partners, you really can't do anything with a database. You got to build applications around it and modernize legacy. So where partners fit within MongoDB is within the revenue organization. It's an overlay model with the fundamental goal to drive sales productivity, to improve sales productivity of all our sales reps. So at MongoDB, we have both SaaS and on-premise offerings that we sell direct. We sell through an inside sales channel. We sell through a self-serve channel. And across all three, we use partners, whether they're system integrators, ISVs, OEM partners, cloud partners, resellers, and then technology partners, which we'll focus on today.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So Zach, how about you?
Yeah, so we fall within revenue, under revenue as well. We're actually in line, so we don't report up through sales. We report up through our president of field operations. Okta is obviously a 100% SaaS organization. The mix of our business is we're roughly 50-50 in terms of direct and indirect business. A little bit higher in the U.S. We're almost 60% in the U.S. And there's different regions that are a little bit higher than that, a little bit lower than that. The model that we have in terms of our go-to-market with partners is we have SIs, global system integrators, regional system integrators, VARs, DMRs, and then services organizations. And we kind of combine all those things together with the tech alliances, which you obviously run, and that's the melting pot.
Awesome. So Matt, help us understand the position again, the place that the team sat in, and then how was that sales model and how did you influence?
Yeah, so well, first of all, thanks everybody for having us. This is a super fun thing to do, and I think hopefully I'm going to learn a ton from the other panelists and from your questions as well. Duo, so I came in at Duo, as Maureen mentioned, when it was at 30 million. So Duo is a 100% SaaS-based security company, was acquired by Cisco in October of 2018. So I'll kind of talk in the terms of Duo prior to acquisition, because that changed certainly with the Cisco model. And I came in as the first employee to come build out the entire indirect business. So that meant basically go figure it out. Go figure out what are the right routes to market, what's going to accentuate and propel, add to our direct sales force motion. And so we sat within the sales organization. However, we did have a technology partnering group that was primarily a part of the product group, but very much around kind of APIs, key integrations, key partners that we wanted to work with. And there was no real formal kind of go-to-market motion. And so our team did that in two ways. One, with some dedicated tech partner go-to-market, where we'd actually meet in the field, meet at the channel, and then through our set of go-to-market security partners. So directly in the channel, what are the solutions we've put together, integrations we have where we can add customer value at those for those partners for their customers.
You know, you're triggering the next great question here, which is figuring it out. So let's, for the panelists who might, for the participants who might be at a smaller company, right? Where someone says, go figure it out. Go figure out what technology partnerships mean. I love this. I've done 3 startups and I love it when they would say, hey, you run all indirect revenue. We just don't know where it's going to come from. So Alan, you know, talk to me about smaller stage. Like, what is the company's expectation of a business development or a technology partnership function? And what are some of the roles that you end up playing at a smaller company?
Yeah, I mean, a smaller company technology partnerships are very exciting because, you know, entrepreneurs are building products, and they're building products with the goal of probably doing 2 things. First, acquiring customers with a path to a revenue stream. And second, either raising capital to go build out a company or to grow it organically where, you know, maybe capital outside capital is not needed. So your valuation is very important as a young company. And as a young company, you have challenges. You can't build a product potentially by yourself. It's hard to do that. So you need people and you need partners. And it's important in an early stage to figure out where your product can fit into a bunch of building blocks to potentially give an end solution to a customer. And the more building blocks you can fit into, probably the better. So you want, from a product strategy, to figure out which tech partners you're going to work with to round out your offering, okay? And then from a customer acquisition strategy, as an early company, a young company, you're not going to may not have any salespeople, but if you have some, you're going to need to find ways to be a force multiplier bigger than you are. So if you can figure out which tech partners that you could potentially cross-sell with, or they could introduce you to accounts because it's complementary to their offering, you could then sell your product on the heels of them. So if I'm a young company, I definitely want to think about tech partners to round out my technology portfolio so that my company's valuation increases. And also, because I don't have a big sales team, which tech partners can I work with where I can cross-sell my product to get more logos, which will also help with my valuation.
And Alan, I think you hit on a key point there, which was, you know, what's the customer value? If you always start from that perspective, it drives back to what are the partners I should be working with from a technology perspective, and then what partner market. Like, if you always start from how am I delivering additional customer value, it'll at least get you halfway there, at least that I've found. The less you design in kind of the ivory tower, and the more you design at the CIO, the CISO, whoever your buyer is level, I think the better off you'll be in terms of that plan.
So we jumped in a little bit there on product, right, and customer. How do you extend your product? Who do you attach yourself to? So Zach, at the smaller stage of companies, have you walked into a company and they're like, hey, we want SIs to know about us, and you're like, nah, they don't. So how do you first get a company to give a rip about what you're doing? This vision. I know I had it. I got asked, like, go get Accenture to resell us. I'm like, yeah, sure. So what are some of the things early stage companies do when it comes to a more traditional channel model, whether it be resellers or SIs?
Yeah, I mean, so early stage, it's a land grab, right? I mean, it's all about customer acquisition from the partner perspective, and you really got to fake it till you make it. There's no early stage company that you walk into where, you know, engineers have developed a product and they're like, this should sell. It's sort of the field of dreams, right? If you build it, they will come, and that's not the case. And you really have to you have to kind of pick your partners, right? Pick the resellers or SIs or services partners you're going to go to bat with, and then leverage the tech alliances, right? And I think Alan said it right? We kind of want to ride their coattails. You know, those are bigger organizations that have established revenue streams with channel, with SIs, with services partners. And if you can integrate yourselves with them, even if it's just a architecture, if you could tell a really good, concise story to the channel partner, to the SI, about the value and the ultimate outcome for the customer, then you've essentially ridden your way into that partnership. And that's how most of those early stage channel partners will pay attention to you. they don't really, they have no frame of reference. They have no ability to understand what the revenue potential is until you attach yourself to something else that is a business outcome that their customers want.
So this is for
Can
all of you
I
guys.
add one thing there? Because this is just such an exciting topic that both Matt and Zach nailed it. Like, if you are a startup and you want to go get a large SI to go deliver tons of services around you, it's hard to do, okay? It's not easy. For Zach, Matt, and I, it's even hard to do now when we're at, larger size companies. So don't get frustrated. But when you go about building your product, you need to do a couple of things with the goal of getting like an Accenture to build practices around your product. First, how is Accenture going to make money on your product? Okay, Accenture sells services. So if your product can drive highly transformational, high margin, competitive, exciting CXO level services, whether you're a tiny 5-person company or a 10,000 person company, the Accentures are going to love you. All right. The second thing you got to think about is, how am I going to get the end customer, to Matt's point, to love my product? Or am I going to open source it and allow developers to download it, to try it out, to seed the market? Because the big partners, if they see your product already in the accounts that they're in through your seed model, they're going to want to partner. Okay, and then finally, to what Zach's saying, the big tech partners are going to want to partner with you as well if you can round out their portfolio. The beauty of a younger company is you're going to innovate quickly. You're building products faster than anybody else. You're building products that fit a certain industry need that the larger companies, it may take a longer time for them to deliver upon. So you could fit into their portfolio because they haven't built it and they rather partner with you than build it themselves.
And if I can, let me add to that a little bit, Alan, because I love that train of thought, to make it more tactical. So what we did in terms of mapping out how are we going to add value to these partners with a particular solution is we actually used the jobs framework, if you guys are familiar with the jobs framework, and looked at what jobs are we doing for them that adds value to the partner. A lot of times it's used for customers, like what jobs are we doing for the customer, how are we deriving value for them, and then how should we charge for their products, et cetera. But you can do the same thing with either a tech partner or with a go-to-market channel partner. So we really looked at that holistically and didn't do it in a vacuum, right? We built out the framework, put down what we thought, and went and validated it with 20, 30 different partners. Are we adding value here? And what actually popped out of that was there's 2 or 3 different archetypes or for the partners we're dealing with. There were some that were way more tech heavy and they were involved in this part, and we could add a lot of value by some of the assessment tools that we had or whatnot. There are some that were, much more go-to-market, right? And so the things that we could add value were, here's how our product attaches to this other, Palo Alto or larger brand in the marketplace, and we can add on to every one of your sales. So we used a pretty, specific framework to go suss out what are the key value props there, and then continue to test them, and they'll evolve, right? Things always evolve.
Yeah, I think another key component of this is listen to your customers. Your customers will ultimately tell you what's important to them. A good example for us was we had, a couple tech partners a couple years ago where we had a huge federal customer that said, listen, you need to have, integration points so that we can have an end-to-end identity and governance solution. And we listened to them. The Tech Alliance team went and partnered with them. And then we took that upstream to some of our top channel partners. Those channel partners, then, our revenue year over year with them just exploded because they were able to wrap services around that integration and sell that as a complete solution versus 3 different point products. So, and that all really came, from kind of a closed loop, situation with the customer demand. So it's really important to keep that.
So I think what we're hearing, and I hope everybody is taking this away, it's like, you can't just sit there and go, me. What's good for us? I want to go do a big deal. Of course, if somebody wants to do a deal with Palo Alto, duh. Of course, you want to do a deal with Accenture. There's a great question here that weaves right into here, which is maybe share some techniques on how to best manage the expectation for your C-level, even your board? Because Zach, what you just talked about there, that did phenomenally well. I'm sure there are about 18 examples of where we tried things like that and they didn't have such a big impact. They didn't provide services and revenue for the channel. So maybe what are some tactics? How did you guys, and then don't worry, I'm hitting metrics next, but how did you guys set expectations in that growth phase of, we're going to try this out? Don't put a new number on us. Like, how do you do that for your C-level management?
I'm happy to take, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach. That's a hard one. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that expectation setting is ongoing. And I don't think it ever really stops, right? But you definitely have to, you don't want to oversell this, because in many cases as a young company, you need that leeway in order to go and really build this. And it takes a lot of time. Getting an Accenture or Deloitte to give a crap about you is going to take a long time. And so,
like how long? Let's just be honest.
I mean, listen, we're still trying with them, and we have very well built out practices with them. It's probably a little easier to get into some of the smaller regional VARs or some of these national VARs than it will be to the SIs. The SIs are much more difficult. They want that established revenue stream before they'll pay attention to you. So I think it's good to set expectations relatively low, because there's a lot of trial and error that needs to happen in order for you to find the right partners, to understand what the outcomes are that those partners are going to be able to provide for you, to the customers, and for them to build services. It takes, for every services person that has to go out there and build something, right? They have to pull them out of the field, they have to get trained, they have to get enabled, then they have to build the services, and they have to market those services. So this is not, we often get into these pipeline calls where the sales team says, hey, it's not working here. Can you turn on a dime and just twist a lever here? And all of a sudden we've got pipeline the next day. No, everything we're doing takes 6 months. Everything we're doing right now, 6 months ago was planned, or sometimes even before that. So temper those expectations with your C-levels for sure.
I would echo that.
Let me add.
Sorry, I'll go, Matt, and then I'll hand to you. I would echo that as well. Look, I think the first thing you got to do with your C team is try to explain to them and get on the same page of what is a good partner motion. What's the strategy? Okay, because I've seen many companies that say, hey, let's just go partner, to your earlier point, Maureen. But what does that really mean, right? A bunch of press releases, or sourcing business, or are you making it just easy for your sales reps to work with paper, like resellers, fulfillment? So I think you got to kind of have a real heart-to-heart on what are you trying to do. At Mongo, we tied it to, let's increase sales productivity. Any way possible, any partner. It could be a 500,000 person consulting company, or it could be a 20-person boutique firm. It doesn't matter. Sourcing money, sourcing revenue is king. And then it's all about your people. Even if you set expectations properly with your CXO team, if you don't hire a good team under you, especially in the partner world, you're not going to ever deliver on it. I can't stress how, and the people on this call who've taken time out of their busy day to learn about partnerships and get on a call and brainstorm about it. These are the people that give me like a lot of excitement, that the partner organizations have really good people. So if you don't hire a good team, it doesn't matter what expectations you set, because you'll never deliver on them. And I think a lot of partner orgs in the past have been hurt by that, because some partner orgs in the past were kind of focused on ambulance chasing. And this type of cadence, this type of people on this call, I think give us a lot more credibility to go into those boardrooms and level set the expectations, because we've got good people behind us that Zach just mentioned.
Yeah, and I was going to make it, I think those are excellent points, Alan and Zach, and just to make it tactical, something that I did early in building the strategy and what are we going to go pursue, was I built basically a matrix that said, okay, here are the different routes to market we could go after. Everything from SIs to telcos to security channel resellers to tech partners. And I showed kind of what is the time horizon in terms of when you can expect kind of first dollar in from building that partnership. And then what is the potential size of that? So just some sort of rough, I mean, and I did this with crayons, basically. It was like, a dollar sign or $3 signs, right? Because at the level, minute detailed analysis, they want to know is how big is it? How long is it going to take to get to revenue? And, kind of a barrier to entry, or how well could we actually execute into that environment metric too, and made them part of the decision, right? Made them part of, okay, here are the 8 things we can go do. And I can build a team around all 8 of these. Here are the 2 or 3 I think would be best suited, but let's make the decision together. And then you've got that timeline laid out early. And by the way, you're going to fail. Like I would say the first 3 things I went after, 2 of them failed. 1 of them did well, and then we picked another 2 or 3 to go. So set that expectation as well. But if you do it collectively, where they can be a part of that decision of, saying, okay, let's go after those 2 together, then you tend to have a little more support, a little more understanding.
I'm going to add I think that's so critical. And I think it's also completely important for us to say what things aren't, not just what they are. Here's an example. If a technology partnership is great marketing, it's a better together story, and it looks good, that's okay. Just don't try and call it something else. Don't try and call it sourced revenue. Don't try and claim it's going to drive. And I think that your definitions when you're building your strategy are critical. What does influenced revenue mean? What does sourced mean? Then go check your comp plans, check all the way through. But I think for technology partnerships, very, very specifically, is your partnership just helping a customer use your products easier? Hey, that's great value. Name it so that you can repeat that and you explain its value, and you can't tie it exactly to revenue. That's okay. But if you don't document and track the motions, the partnership motions, and then also say, hey, by the way, I was thinking that these companies will resell us, that didn't work, right? That's not going to work. We don't think it's going to work for 2 years. And the final thing I would add to this is be bold. I say look 3 years out. Fuck, why not? Sorry, drop the first F-bomb of the meeting. But just, if you don't look 3 years out, everyone will live in what you can do today. So I'm going to jump into something. How do you guys all, or can you, influence product? Because Zach, I got to tell you, there's pros and cons to Okta being easy to implement if you want SIs to make services revenue, right? So let's start maybe with Zach. So we're in your specific role, being on the alliances side, not necessarily doing the tech partnerships. Do you feel like you need to influence product? How do you do that, and why is it important?
Yeah, so I mean, it is important to have a feedback loop into products from the partners, because we don't want to get into a situation where you've got a product that you think that everybody, that people at Okta can implement. But as soon as you take to the partners, you don't have documentation, or you're not, you don't really have implementation training. Maybe you have admin training. So there's a lot of those little nuances that our partners will uncover, and they need to be able to feed that back in so that we can overall improve the ecosystem. So from the perspective of product being delivered and implemented and integrated with other solutions, that's super important for us. But
is that sometimes a miss? Like an accidental miss?
I mean, it's a big miss. I mean, listen, let's be honest. I mean, especially early stage, effective documentation and enablement for an early stage company are not the priorities. They become the priorities once you have a couple fails out there where you've implemented something incorrectly, or you've got a partner that you thought was certified and trained and capable, and then all of a sudden they mess something up. But yeah, it's super important for us as it relates to the go-to-market component, because we don't want our partners to fail. As soon as a partner fails a bunch of times implementing your stuff, then they
don't want to do it anymore. So Matt, how about you? Like, again, maybe jump in on the beginning stage of technology partnerships, not just alliances. What was your role within your product organization? How much influence did you have?
I mean, at a startup, when you're going through hypergrowth, like we did, there's always a million things you can go after, and the organization has to get it down to 3 or 4. So there are a lot of good ideas and very, very few that actually get implemented. But I think Zach really touched on it well, which was feedback from the partner. Anytime we could get customers or partners speaking, to the product organization directly in terms of, here's what we're seeing, here are the use cases, that was most effective. The SEs could, the sales team could, but frankly, they listened a lot more to their peers and or to direct customers, more so. And then secondarily, like many companies, we had a variety of feature requests and all that. So making sure that you use all of those mechanisms by which, sales reps or SEs are putting in feature requests into Salesforce or Jira or whatever the tool is, making sure you do that. But it's messy. Like, I think, you heard Zach talk about it. I'm sure Alan will tell you too. It's real messy. It's real hard to get that in because you're competing against the next version of the product or the platform iteration. And it's not really clear on how to show the value. I know we'll get to metrics at some point, but it's really messy.
How about you, Alan?
No, I think, by the way, to Matt's point, it weaves into metrics, right? So your product organization is building products to go help customers, but they obviously care about revenue. So as companies mature and they want to build products, they have basically three motions. They'll either build their own, they'll either do acquisitions, or they'll want to partner with smaller or larger companies to round out their portfolio. So a channel partner organization and a product management organization need to be tied at the hip when it comes to those three motions. They do. On the flip side, if I'm a channel organization and I go to my product team and say, hey, you need to go design this API so that this tech partner can integrate into it, and I don't have my data, my evidence, my proof there that says this is going to help us drive more revenue, I'm letting my team down because that product team is not going to pay attention to me anymore. So when I come with something like that, there better be tangible results tied to it. There better be. And if you can do that and then show the results, show the ROI, the next time you come, they're going to listen. But if you go to your product team and say, hey, you need to go build these APIs because we want to integrate with these tech partners, and they do it, and 6 months to a year down the line, there's no ROI, that door is going to be shut. So you really need to get your act together when you go make those requests. I'm not saying those requests aren't critical, but when you do it, you need to make sure there's a positive ROI down the line. So next time you get what you want.
How clear do you think your product and engineering orgs are on these indirect sales models? How do you make sure? So again, it's going to sound silly, but we did kind of a roadshow when we reoriented technology partnerships and said, hey, you guys, did you know that technology partnerships could do this, this, and this? You can get feedback and hear how other customers, it's like, so any advice for people, just a continuous cadence, because you can't expect an engineer who's the one that's actually going to do your work, or a product manager, just to say yes. But that involvement, it's a little bit of like selling internally. How do you get them involved in what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think I'll take that real quick. So I think a lot of this, it goes to also, how do you build good businesses? How do you become a better leader? How do you influence across organizations? A lot of it is understanding, what are their needs? How do they operate? And then how do you along you? So at the end of the day, you have to have that vision. And you have to include them in that vision. You have to bring them along with you, find opportunities for them to be speaking directly to the tech partner product management or the go-to-market teams or the CIOs and CISOs. And it's a lot of corralling that and making sure you continue that cadence. You bring them along, you give them things that they can go back to their organization as wins, right? Really, it's no different than selling in some regards. It's no different than a lot of leadership items is, what do they care about and how can I help them achieve what's next for them in their job or their career?
Great. So
let's say that right. I mean, it's you also have to make sure you filter out the garbage because, there could be some nuanced, thing that one partner needs for one deal and it has no relevance for, the overall go-to-market. So you really have to filter that out or else you lose your mind share internally.
They will respect you a lot more if you say no to things, right?
Yep.
So let's go down the path, the really fun path of how is everybody here measured? And is your reporting perfect like mine is? I mean, it's just perfect. It's super easy to track influenced revenue through technology partnerships, and especially since we sell direct and through a channel. So I mean, mine's perfect. I don't want to brag, but I was just wondering if you guys wanted to share with anybody a little bit about, and let's, again, it sounds like based on some of the Q&A that we have a lot of companies that are figuring out this indirect model. So let's start at the smaller and then maybe take us through a couple iterations. Alan, help us understand, like when you first started to be measured, right? How did you do it?
In the channel org, channel world, if you don't get this right, you will not last long. It's probably the most important thing you can do. I mean, as you know, if you're a young company, startup company, everybody kind of is beating from the same drum. It's all about customer acquisition. But as you get multi-channel, where you have direct sales teams, indirect, self-serve, marketing, and the channel partners, you got to get this right. So I think you hit on it earlier, like what's defined source revenue, source booking, source ACV, what defines resell, influenced, what are some ways where you could do things strategically where maybe it doesn't generate source revenue immediately, but it sets you up down the line to. I'll give you an example, a complex situation here at MongoDB. You know, we're a database company. We want the system integrators to position MongoDB everywhere over some of the legacy databases. We want that. Now that's hard to do, okay? Whoever says it's easy to do, you know, maybe they haven't set the right expectations to your earlier point. So how do you get them to go do it? Well, you could go to them, beat up their, you know, knock on their door. Hey, you should go do this because you're going to sell services. But then you could think, well, how do I want to use technology partners to help the SIs sell more of my product? So what we did is we found the technology partners like the ETL providers that could potentially build better integrations to our database so the system integrators could go modernize customers and transfer data from legacy databases to MongoDB better. So that tech partner motion helped us actually with the SIs downstream because now they could do more transformational consulting by moving data from a legacy database to MongoDB using the technology partnership we set up. So there's ways you can do this where it's not just chasing every dollar, okay? You just chase every dollar, you also will struggle. You do want to plant some seeds, make some investments, especially in tech partners that can help you with revenue down the line. You got to get this right. Obviously, Zach, Pat, Maureen, you and myself, we've gone through this and we've got a lot of scars through the years. So ask for help. Ask for help. Do not try to invent it on your own because we've all learned from our predecessors and are now doing it today. It's an evolving science. Ask for help. Go to Venrock. They'll connect you with us. You got to get this right. If you get it wrong, yeah, you won't last too long in this business.
Yeah, and I'll give a couple of tactical examples as well that we used with our tech partnerships. So in terms of, you know, finding a proxy to measure revenue, right? At the end of the day, you're looking for a proxy that says, here's how much we influenced or here's how much we generated in revenue. So one was just straight marketing campaigns. So partnering with the marketing organization, any events that we did, even if they were meeting the channel, any events we did with the tech partners, we ran campaigns on those and we pulled all those metrics and there's one good proxy to show what net new business have we generated, what influence business are we part of, et cetera. And the other is maybe a bit unique to Duo because we had such an open API and a very good kind of back end where we could look and see what were the integrations across our different customers. So we started running metrics and logging it more kind of officially, like what are the different integrations different customers are using, and looked at those over time and then tied those to the customer ACV or ARR equivalent. And so then we could start to kind of map out, are we having an effect over time? It's never, you can't measure it quarter to quarter, dollar to dollar, like a discrete revenue, you know, discrete quota. But you can look at it over time, like are more customers using us, or more bigger dollar customers using us?
Great. So I'm going to repeat back because there's a couple really great ideas here. One is you can leverage your tech partners to build something that gets your channel excited, and then you could probably track who, you know, you can do it in Salesforce. You can put some sort of tagging in there. That's in that leading to the channel. But Matt, you're also saying, hey, if you have any data after the fact that shows usage of a tech partner and API, go get the after the fact data because it helps you decide where to focus, probably helps you to feedback and understand your impact. So Zach, you know, having been at Okta for long enough where, you know, and again, for everybody to understand that your structure of your teams may shift as you grow, not just your measurements or what partnership motions you do and don't do. So Zach, technology alliances have sat within the revenue organization. It's moved out, it's moved in. What are some of the, if you could do it all over again, what are some of the tracking and metric things you say are must-haves?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the metrics that we've had here, I think that the key thing to understand is as a young company, it's all about incremental revenue, right? The reason anybody hired you as a partner organization or as a partner person is because they want incremental revenue. And that's no different here. There has to be a tipping point at some point where it stops being solely about partners generating revenue for the company, and it has to be a tipping point to partners as a force multiplier. And it's kind of, it's sometimes difficult to understand when that tipping point happens. But at Okta, the other thing is use your peer organizations. I have a peer group that I work with from Proofpoint and from Netscope and CrowdStrike and some others. And we talk about this a lot. And the roles for the channel manager has completely evolved over the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, especially. Channel managers are no longer channel managers, right? They are channel managers plus, which is why we're called regional alliances, right? Because the go-to-market partners are not just resellers and SIs and services partners now. Now they're go-to-market partnerships with our peer companies. And so it behooves everybody to broaden the scope of what they think the channel really is, because the channel really is anything that's got a go-to-market capacity. And the channel manager's job now is really to try to find a way to have their resellers and SIs, combine the integration partners or combine the partners where we have a architecture with, and sell that outcome to their customers. So, the metrics have evolved a bit. I mean, I think, once you get into, once you have hundreds of channel partners and, for us, it's thousands of tech partners, you have to start thinking about how you transform yourself from just being a lead gen engine, because ultimately our organization will be the most expensive lead gen engine in the company if that's all we continue to be. So we have to transform ourselves into a force multiplier, because if you look at the biggest channel organizations in the world, 25, maybe 30% of the revenue that goes through those partners is generated by those partners. The rest of that is that organization is being used as an extended sales force. And that's where you have to start to think about that at a certain point in your evolution.
That's a big aha moment, right? I either get to keep my job and I'm seen as a god, or no, I think it's really important, right? Don't ignore, don't put your head in the sand, look around you and say, how many actual deals did we influence? Even if it's not perfect, what's the revenue that we're impacting with these partnerships? And if it's really small as a percentage of your overall revenue, you might want to change your focus. So we have a great question over here. I'm going to start doing a little bit of both, going back to some of the things we wanted to talk, but someone asked, what's your advice on structuring the team to maximize productivity? So, let's go ahead and start with Matt a little bit. And again, if you feel like doing both, like, hey, this is what we ended up with when we were at scale, that's totally fine. But what was the structure?
Yeah, it goes back to, well, one, this answer is going to be unique for every company and for every type of business. So without knowing which type of business we're talking about here, I'll kind of give you a little more generic answer. So it goes back to, what are the big rocks? What are the things that we're pursuing in that CEO, board conversation where we had the list of 8 to 10 things that we could pursue? What are the 2 or 3 we're going to go pursue? Right, and getting that alignment and that buy-in, because ultimately, I was funding an organization from scratch, from 0 to 30 or 40 people over the 3 or 4 years, and with that alignment, then you say, okay, so this is what I need to then go build if this is what I'm going after. So it starts with, what is my key objective, and then building the plan of how am I going to get there. So, for example, we said we definitely know that there are a set of, I'll give you one that I failed at too. There's a set of security-centric next-gen partners out there, like Optiv being the biggest, but a whole bunch of other small guys that we know, like Duo, they really want to offer Duo to their customers, et cetera. We're going to go after them. And so I brought in talent that understood how to build, could handle a startup environment, and could go, effectively build that while building a program at the same time. And the other one that we failed at miserably was, how do we go after a bunch of Microsoft partners? Because we integrated so much with Microsoft, thinking, oh, let's see if we can't do some Microsoft. And we, went and just tried to understand what was happening in that space, who were their partners, who actually did security, and we found out pretty much nobody. Right? We tried to go build a security practice with a bunch of Microsoft partners that were all doing workload migration of SharePoint to SharePoint in the cloud. And so it's quick, it's good to do that, but it's also, you want to do it quickly to say, okay, this is not going to work. But, because again, back to the jobs framework, back to having identified we're going after these 2 or 3 areas. What is the work we're going to do to add value to these partners? And then what is the skill set I need to hire for? Is it a, taking paper like Alan mentioned before, or is it I'm going to help you build a deep, security practice, and I need a deep security practitioner that also is good with partnering?
Yeah, we tried to ride the bear too, and it was a dismal failure as well.
I would add to that in terms of structuring as well. As you grow, you may, as the companies grow, you may consider 2 teams that are within the partner organization. There's a team that works centrally to build out programs with big and small partners like the cloud providers, like Marketplace, or with the SIs, like, building out offerings that the SIs could lead with your product, or structuring how we can do resale deals better with more fluidness. So you could have a team that focuses centrally on programs with partners that then can be given to a team that sits in the field, that sit in the regions with the local sales leaders. Maybe they're all over the world. Every place you have a pod of 10 sales executives, you have a partner manager, channel manager that sits there, and they use those programs that have been created centrally to go do pipeline generation regionally to then drive incremental revenue for the sales teams. We here at Mongo have done that. We have a team of about 15 that work on programs. A lot of them are in India as well. And then we have field partner leaders that are all over the world. Like, they spread everywhere where we have local teams. That has allowed us to scale much, much better, where I don't have like 20 different teams trying to build programs with Google. I have one team building the program with Google to help us figure out how to sell on the marketplace with them, which has gone very well. And then I have 20 people in the field that go use that program to drive incremental revenue for each region. So you could think of it almost as a pillar program team and then a team in the field. What you do not want to do is set up an ivory tower where all you have are a bunch of programs and that's all you do. It has to somehow get to the field where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, I think for us, over the last 6 years at Okta, we started off, everybody was a generalist. So it was sort of partners. There was sort of the partners that were the go-to-market partners, and there were the tech alliance partners. And as we've evolved, we've become more and more specialized. So now I have an overlay team that manages GSIs, because that's a very specialized thing in itself. I have an overlay team that manages national security resellers like Optiv. And then we have the generals that are in territory that are basically in charge of all of the partner business within that territory. And they mostly manage these regional partners and the offices of the national partners that fall into them. And they're sort of the go-to for the entire sales team. But it took a while for us to evolve to that kind of a model, because you don't have enough headcount when you're early stage, so everybody has to do everything for a while, and then eventually, once you start to build that revenue stream, then you can start to specialize.
Don't you also feel a little bit it's about the function and the skill set of those people? Especially in the early days, you better have someone that's kind of a salesy oriented hunter. You just have to, who is who is technical in nature. Maybe they came out of your SE organization, they came out of product, because they're really, to Alan's kind of model, which is pretty similar to ours right now, where, you got to have one person that understands all the pieces of Google, how their products work, whether you do and don't connect to them, right? So when you get bigger and you're trying to scale, did you have to go find different skill sets as those roles kind of matured?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
100%.
I think one of the mistakes we made early on is we tried to hire really good salespeople in some cases or take internal salespeople and put them into alliances roles. And that just really is it's a completely different world. What we found really is if you can find somebody that has done Optiv, for instance, or if you can find somebody that has great relationships with Sirius or WWT or some of these other bigger SIs or Accenture, you can't take somebody that has no relationships and has never done it, but has great sales acumen, and put them into a partnership that is relationship based. It's much better to have somebody that has a relationship and mold them into somebody that understands how to work at Okta.
I cannot echo how important a question this is. I mean, let's just be realistic. Many partner organizations, not on this call, but have a bad rap in the industry because they're considered the JV team. They take people to fancy lunches or the golf courses, and that's how they get business. And that's not what really good partner organizations do, which comes down to the people you hire. Whether they have the experience, which I agree with Zach is very important, or not, they got to be willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard. You don't go join the partner organization because you want an easy job. You go because you want to be challenged. You want to blend sales with alliances. You want to be able to pick up the phone and do pipeline generation. You want to go help the sales teams at the end of the quarter close that multi-million-dollar deal. And if you can find those people, you will have a great partner organization. And if they have the experience, even better. But I can't stress how important it is to find those, triple threats, if you may. And if you can find those triple threats on your partner team, you will have a really good one. Now, there aren't, because of the past, you can't just go to anyone and they're going to have it. But when you find those people, you'll know it because they know how to sell. They know how to be strategic. They know, they understand how partners work. They know how to be even keel when you want to deal with channel conflict. And when you find those people, hire them, pay them a lot of money. And if you don't want to hire them, refer them to me because I'm hiring.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I would add very tactically is, Zach's point, you have to have someone who has those relationships, especially if you're just trying to break through. Pair them with a partner SE, right? So you have the SE concept, they're more technical, they become experts on your product. Don't try to make somebody who totally gets how to play Optiv and Accenture or Deloitte also try and learn quickly to be an expert. So I know that we have technology strategy that we pull from. It's not 100%. We get to pull a percentage of their time out of that team. I know that Zach has a partner SE organization. Pair that together, and then you're going to get the best of both worlds. That relationship, contract building, get those dollars in, get them to their next level and tier of discounts, along with having that technical person play their role.
And one last point, I think, just to back to the core of the question, the structure. And Zach mentioned this, the structure is going to evolve over time. I think I would change my structure probably every 12 months or so as we were going through rapid scale. So at 30 million, it was massively different than at 100 million, different than at 200 million. And then certainly as you go to, 60 billion at a Cisco, it's massively different as well. So just as you think about structure, it is not a fixed thing. It is going to evolve, and it may evolve based on the talent you have within the team, who's ready to take the next role, who could do multiple things, who has domain knowledge, Zach, to your point, over in the GSI space that could, help us build a practice there, et cetera.
I want to make sure we hit this final question. I hope we hit all of the Q&A. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everyone joining us that actually asked questions. You're amazing. So how do you enable and create strategic SI business with SaaS products where the overall USP is do more with less, right? So anyone have any good guidance there?
I'd like to start on that one because this one is close to my heart. One of the biggest opportunity for partners today, and some would argue it's a $100 billion opportunity, is helping customers move to the cloud. It is, we've been saying it for years, but the biggest pie of money is still there now. And the next 5 years, it's a race as more and more customers move their most mission critical workloads to the cloud, and they want to move them to SaaS type products. They do. So if you have a SaaS type product that an SI can help a customer move from a legacy environment that's on premise to more of a hybrid environment in the cloud, the SIs are going to love you. They're going to love you because they are actively, they're even reorganizing their entire company to do this, like Accenture's cloud first strategy. So if you have a SaaS product that helps you go take down legacy workloads and move them to the cloud, you're a good fit. You're a really good fit for SIs. So get your messaging correct and see if you can fit into that cloud transformation journey.
I think one of the hard things you'll find with the SI specifically is, well, I agree with everything Alan said, is they are very, it's 100% services, right? They're not reselling anything. So there has to be services dollars in it, or you have to be a cog in the wheel of a much larger picture. So that digital transformation motion, or moving to the cloud, or moving off-prem, that all of that involves a lot of services. Okta in itself is not a big, services play. We're typically a third of the license sale is services, but we're part of that cog. But still, the full frontal attack on a GSI it's a very difficult one to crack, and we found it's a little bit easier if you can partner with the sub, a layer down. So go to find some of these regional SIs, and those regional SIs, if you think about how the Accentures and Deloittes and PwCs, KPMGs, if they see a regional SI winning a bunch of services business or winning those digital transformations, ultimately they're going to go and snap those partners up and acquire them. And that's part of the model that the regional SIs have, and it's part of the model that the GSIs have. So sometimes it'll be more effective and easier for you to partner downstream and then create that competitiveness with the GSI. And the GSI ultimately will come back to you and want to partner deeper with you because they know that they're starting to lose business to the regional SI. So that's just one of the tactics that we've used here, and it's been pretty successful.
Great.
Yeah, one more quick tactic. I spent several years doing GSI work and leading teams at Symantec. And I found that almost 100% of the time, any practice that we could build with an SI, whether it was Deloitte or the tier 2 Satyas or whatever, was based on customer engagement. Like there had to be a joint customer engagement somewhere that you could then build upon, that lead client services rep was willing, or partner was willing to take you back into the organization, to their technology horizontal, and say, hey, this is a really good solution. We saw good results with this customer. We've got a good use case. And then build from there. It is, from my experience, it was 100% build from an actual real deal with the customer or the SIs involved. And, for me, it was go back to that jobs framework. What work can I do for this SI? What work can I do for Deloitte to add value to that practice?
Yeah, I think you also have to, everybody has a partner program and requirements. The SIs don't care about your partner program at all. And so you have to be realistic.
They didn't read it all?
They didn't early stage that they are not going to go and jump through any of the hoops that you want them to jump through.
That's right.
So you have to make a little bit of trade-off there.
I know that we want to wrap up, you guys. That was a full hour. Great questions. Hopefully, there was value. Ron, do you want to kind of close it out for us?
Yeah, absolutely. What a great conversation. Thanks everyone for joining. So on behalf of BD by the Bay, I'd like to thank Alan Chabra from MongoDB, Zach Kilpatrick from Okta, and Matt Smith from Duo. Special thanks to our fearless moderator, Maureen Little from Okta. And then a great round of thanks to my co-conspirators and the fellow BD by the Bay organizers, Connie Wu from DocuSign, Don Perry from Vertex, and Todd Graham from Venrock. And especially big thanks, we didn't see her or hear from her today, but the person who helped put this all together was Alex Bernard from Venrock. Thanks very much to Alex for all her work. So everyone, please stay in contact with BD by the Bay. We'll plan more events and maybe even someday some live events. So expect to get an email from us that'll be asking you to join our email list. It'll be asking you to join our LinkedIn group and stay in touch with BD by the Bay so we can create this great community of professionals in the tech alliances and tech ecosystems space. On behalf of BD by the Bay, my name is Ron Piavezan with Okta. Thanks very much for your time and have a great rest of the day.
Bye everybody. Thanks again.
Bye all.